All right. So today we're diving into something I always thought was kind of, dry legal briefs.
Okay, yeah.
But then going through these excerpts you shared from this legal writing guide, it really struck me like how important that storytelling aspect is.
Right.
Like you really need to know how to set the stage, even when it's something like law, facts and figures, all that.
It's funny you say that because, it is all about facts and precedents and so on.
Right.
But the way you present those things, the storytelling element.
It makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Judges, at the end of the day, they're readers too.
Oh, for sure.
And a good story, a well-crafted narrative, it grabs their attention.
So it's not just what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's how you say it. This guide even had this example of, like, how not to write a fact section for a brief.
Yeah.
And the bad example it gave was just, like, packed with details right off the bat.
Yeah, you can't just bombard the judge with information.
Like, overwhelm them from the get-go.
Exactly. Think of it like the opening scene of a movie, right?
Yep.
You don't start with a close-up of someone like shuffling papers. You want that big picture first.
That panoramic shot.
That's it. It's all about drawing the reader in. You need that hook. And the guide actually mentioned this lawyer, Ted Wells.
Okay, yeah.
Apparently, he's amazing at this. He had this really complex commercial case, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his opening line in the brief was just, "This matter arises out of Terra Firma's purchase of EMI in May 2007.
And that's it. Seems kind of
simple.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, though, especially with these big commercial cases. Lots of money involved.
Right, right.
You don't want to get lost in the weeds right away. You keep it neutral, pique their interest, but no bias. Almost like you're planting a seed.
So the judge is like, okay, tell me more.
Exactly. They want to know what happens next.
Okay, so start neutral, build from there.
Yeah.
But then you have someone like, what was his name? Joe Jamail.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Legendary lawyer, won tons of huge cases. But the guide mentioned this brief of his, a fraud case, I think. And it sounded like he went the total opposite direction, like straight to the point.
Jamail, he was known for being very direct, bold. Oh, yeah, almost theatrical in the courtroom. But that was part of his whole thing, It worked for him, but it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach.
So you can't just, channel your inner Joe Jamail for every case.
Right. It has to match. Imagine that style in some, sensitive family law case.
Oh, yeah, no way. Totally different.
Tone is everything.
So where's the sweet spot then? Like somewhere between a textbook and Shakespeare.
There you go. It's that happy medium. Persuasive, but not over the top. The guide actually highlighted another litigator, Fred Bartlett, who's known for his subtlety. Like, he'll weave his theme into the facts, but it's subtle, never explicitly stated.
Okay, so how does he do that?
Let's say a company's stock price is tanking. He might connect that to some external factor without actually saying it caused it, just putting those two things next to each other.
Letting the judge draw their own conclusions.
Exactly. And then there's Larry Tribe, legal giant, right? The guide talked about his brief defending affirmative action in Michigan.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
And what's interesting? He doesn't even start by talking about affirmative action.
Really?
He starts by talking about Michigan's history of university autonomy, completely out of left field.
Wow. So he's, reframing the entire issue before he even gets to it?
That's exactly what he's doing. He starts with this broad principle, academic freedom, and then he uses that to influence how you interpret the facts about the referendum.
So it's all about setting the stage.
Masterful framing.
Because it's not just about the facts, it's also about the lens you're using to look at them.
You got it.
Which actually, that's relevant for so much more than just legal briefs, right? Like, anytime you're trying to be persuasive.
Oh, absolutely.
But we'll circle back to that. I want to hear about this BMW case.
And speaking of framing, how you present those facts.
Mm-hmm.
This BMW case is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah, the one with the guy who bought the car and then found out it had been, damaged and repainted.
Right.
Which, at first you'd think, okay, whatever, minor thing, right?
You'd think so, but it went all the way to the Supreme Court, punitive damages and everything.
Wow.
And it's crazy how much those little details, the way you phrase things, can really make a difference.
So, what? What did they do? How'd they spin it?
Well, the lawyer for BMW, Andy Frey, his opening line in the brief was, "In their journey from the assembly line to the dealer's showroom, automobiles occasionally experience minor damage requiring repair or refinishing."
Mm-hmm. Okay. Seems pretty neutral.
Right. But think about it.
Okay, so he doesn't even mention BMW, directly.
Exactly. Almost like the damage just happened on its own. And the way he phrases it, journey occasionally experience.
Yeah, makes it sound like no big deal, like part of the process or something.
Right, like stuff happens, you know.
Totally. Instead of sometimes cars get messed up when we're shipping them around and they need to be fixed.
Yeah. Totally different vibe.
Night and day.
And that's just word choice, you know? Not even changing the facts.
It's amazing how much of a difference it makes.
Hmm.
So we've got framing, choosing the right words, but what about emotions?
Yeah.
This guy mentioned a case, Fifth Avenue Presbyterian Church versus New York City, where they really leaned into that sympathy factor.
Oh, that one was fascinating. Classic David and Goliath story. And you've got the church's lawyer, Carter Phillips, a real master of language, using it to his advantage.
What was the case about it? Was the city going after them for something, right?
So the church was providing shelter to homeless people, which kind of clashed with some city regulation.
Okay, right.
And Phillips, in the facts section, he writes, as part of its Christian mission to care for the poor, the church has for many years ministered to the homeless by providing limited sanctuary. This case arises from the city's effort to disrupt this religious practice.
Christian mission, care for the poor, providing sanctuary. He's not holding back.
Not at all. He even uses the word disrupt.
To describe what the city's doing, painting them as the bad guy from the get-go.
Exactly. And notice he hasn't even mentioned the city's perspective yet.
Just focuses on the church, making them seem sympathetic right off the bat.
And that's the strategy. You want the judge to be on your side from sentence one, even before they've heard the other side of the story.
Wow, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of, taking sides, what about that Facebook case with those guys who said Mark Zuckerberg stole their idea?
Ah, yes, that one. Everyone remembers that story.
It's like a classic, right?
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg, the college dropout, building this empire out of his dorm room.
Fine.
But of course, there's always another side to this story.
Always. And in this case, Facebook's lawyer, Joshua Rosencrantz, he uses this really interesting tactic. He taps into that classic narrative, the underdog entrepreneur, but he uses it to portray Zuckerberg.
It's like he's taking that familiar story, the underdog, beats the odds, and he's applying it to Zuckerberg.
Exactly. And it works.
So what does he say? Like, how does he actually phrase it?
Okay, so he opens with this line. The plot line of this controversy is all too familiar. Wonderkin entrepreneur conceives of a transformative business and propels it to a meteoric success, but failed rivals insist they thought up the idea first and demand all the profits.
Wow. He really goes for it.
No kidding.
But I gotta admit, it kind of works.
Oh, absolutely. You immediately get this sense of
Poor Zuckerberg.
Right, this wonderkind facing down his enemies.
Like he's already won, and you haven't even gotten to the evidence yet.
It's all about that initial framing, that emotional hook. Because we connect with stories, right? It's how we're wired.
It's true. And this whole deep dive, it really just shows you how important that is. Even in law, where you think it's all just here are the facts, make your decision.
You'd think so, but
there's so much more to it.
It's never just about the facts, is it? It's about how you present them, the narrative you build around them.
And that human element, that emotion.
Because even judges, they connect with that. A good story, it resonates.
Totally. Like you said at the beginning, they're readers too.
Exactly.
This has been fascinating. Really makes you think about how you present information, any information.
Oh, for sure. It's not just about legal briefs, right? This is persuasive communication 101.
Exactly. Anytime you're trying to get your point across, be convincing. These techniques, they apply. Whether you're writing a business proposal, giving a presentation, even sending an email.
Think about it. What's your goal? How can you use these tools, these strategies, to make your message stick?
It's like having a whole new toolkit.
And the key is to use them thoughtfully, ethically, because they're powerful tools.
For sure. Well, I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today.
I hope so. It's been fun diving into this with you.
Likewise. Until next time.